Recently, I did a video speaking specifically to women who were not mothered well growing up. They had some wounds from their moms. And I was talking about the importance of forgiving her, not only for your sake, also for my sake, but for the sake of the children that you have or may have who will need the best version of you, not the wounded little girl version of you. And how forgiving your mother is the gift you give yourself and ultimately your children. And so today I want to talk about the B side of that, which is acceptance. Um, I want to start off by saying I am very aware. If you have not seen the video I did on forgiving your mom, I I suggest you watch that. I'll try to include that in the card above. But I understand at the time that I recorded that video, and since then, reflecting on it for myself, I understand how difficult it is for us to have honest conversation about what we have experienced with our mothers if it wasn't the loving, nurturing experience that is often depicted in movies, talked about in your social circles, especially on social media. Um, Moms are, for the most part, the rock stars that the actual rock stars that we are spoken of as. I'm including myself in it. We do all the things. We love and we love hard and we love well if we are well. But some of us, and I raised my hand as one of them, got to this place of loving my children better than I was loved through a lot of heartache, through a lot of sorrow, through a lot of experiences that I had to forgive. And I mean, forgive and forgive and forgive. And a lot of the reason that we don't talk about it is because, I mean, it's our mamas. We don't want to, we don't want to even think of them in any way less than stellar. And we certainly don't want to speak of them in any way less than stellar. And I'm all for it. I agree with it, not at the expense of honesty. Some things are just facts. They happened, like you had history in school, and the things happened, whether they were great or whether they were evil, they happened, and they are recorded for the benefit of those in the future to know what happened so it would not, hopefully, not be repeated. And it's the same thing for you and I. It's necessary to acknowledge, to reflect on what we experienced and may still be experiencing, depending on the relationship you have with your mother now, so that you can process it. And as I said in the previous video, let that pain profit you. If you're going to experience pain, at least let it bless you. Don't let it be for nothing. Don't let pain just be for pain's sake. Let it be for the purpose of preparation, for the purpose of healing. And so I understand, particularly as a Black woman, as a Black mama who has a Black mama, and who understands that in our community, Black women are held in high regard and for good reason. We have a burden in not only bearing, but in raising our children that is unlike any other mother. Even our ability in this country to birth our children and to live after we've birthed our children, for our children to be birthed alive. We have a higher incidence of maternal death, of fetal death, because of the disparity in healthcare in this country. I'm in the US, by the way, if you're watching someplace else. And so we've been through a lot, particularly in this country, what Black women have been through. in the raising of our children and in surviving to be able to raise our children is absolutely remarkable. And so I absolutely understand the hesitation in speaking of our mothers in any way less than absolute gratitude for an appreciation and understanding for what she has endured and the things that we're not even aware of. That said, wounds are wounds, and wounds left unattended fester and become something that's out of control and destructive. And so there has to be a way, and that's what I'm endeavoring to do, to have necessary conversations for the purpose of forging a better path forward. There's a way to speak about the facts and still be able to find some way of honoring the person. And so I encourage you to do that if indeed talking about what you experienced with your mom is still a struggle for you. I really do encourage you to watch that video. But today, let's talk about acceptance. Vanessa, what do I need to accept? You need to accept that just because you forgive your mother, it doesn't mean anything's going to change. It doesn't mean that she is going to be touched by your forgiveness, that it's going to give her any sort of self awareness, that she's going to reflect on how she treated you as a child and maybe even treats you now, and that it's going to soften her heart and she's going to be different and she's going to approach you and she's going to be apologetic and she's going to get therapy or all any of those things. It doesn't mean any of that. And your role in the part B of forgiving her, which again, you're forgiving her for your sake, you're not forgiving her as a means of excusing how she treated you, what she did to you. The forgiveness is for you, it's for your freedom. Your freedom does not mean someone else will change. Your freedom means you changed. And you have to be able to accept that your change does not necessitate someone else's. In particular, in this situation that we're talking about, it does not necessitate your mother's change. She is her own woman. And depending on how old you are and now how old she is, she has built a whole life the way that she is. She is comfortable in her skin, doing what she does the way she does it. And unless she finds that to be problematic for her, she will not change. That may be a hard pill for you to swallow, but don't let it be the reason that you withhold forgiveness, thinking, well, if she's not going to change, if she's going to continue to be the way she is, she doesn't deserve my forgiveness. She does not. You do. You deserve forgiving her. Because if what you experienced at her hand was as awful as it was, then you want to be free from that so that you don't do anything like it, so that it stops with you. You want to be the agent of change. And the only way you can do that is to forgive your mother for how she failed you and to accept that she may never change. She may never apologize. She may never see herself in her role in your life, in her role in the damage caused in your life. She may never even see it, much less acknowledge it and apologize for it. but you're worth being free. Your children are worth you being free. And so this conversation is as necessary as the first one about forgiveness, because we can tie the two together and we're really just tying ourselves up. Recently, I heard a testimony at church from a man who some years ago was stabbed 33, 35 times in his home by someone attempting to enter his home to rob him. He came down to see what all the noise was that he heard. This man attacked him with a knife, stabbing him 35 times. He recovers. He testifies at the man's trial when he's finally caught a year later, and decides that for him to really continue to live his life, he'd have to forgive this man. Okay, so he forgave him. But he didn't stop there. He decided that he would go and visit him, that he would go and visit his attacker. When they met, he not only told him that he had forgiven him for attacking him, he wanted to get to know him. And that started a relationship that became the two of them leading a ministry. This man is in prison. The victim is visiting in prison. They come together, become friends after some time, and start a ministry for other prisoners. This man now pastors this ministry for prisoners, and his partner in it is the man who stabbed him 35 times. That is a remarkable story of forgiveness. With all that I experienced with my mom, she did not stab me 35 times, thank God. And so when I thought about that, and I thought about the lengths that this man went to not only express and convey the forgiveness that he was offering, but to connect with this man, I thought that was amazing. But it required his assailant to accept responsibility for what he had done, to be remorseful, and to want to be different, and to want to affect change for other people like him. That's why they were able to connect and move forward. That's not the case for everyone. That may not be the case for you. Just because you forgive your mom, it doesn't mean that there will be a connection going forward. Doesn't mean that she will acknowledge her ways and make amends. It doesn't mean that. And that's something that you will have to accept. Just like I've had to accept that although I forgive my mom for so many things. But I'll tell you the thing that was for me the knife in my back, proverbially speaking. The proverbial knife in the back for me in my relationship with her happened when I was 15. And she was upset with me. And the next words out of her mouth were, "I don't even know why you're so close to your dad, because your dad never wanted you. I had to beg him to have children, and he wanted a boy. And here you are. So I don't even know why you're so close to him." The words rolled off her tongue really easy. I don't know if she really has ever understood their impact. They rolled off her tongue, but they were lodged in my heart. So many things were conveyed in those statements. a seeming devalue for me as a female, the complete disregard for all of the years with all of the moments and all of the memories that I had shared with my dad up until this point and still do. I'm still a daddy's girl. And all of the contempt for a relationship that I had with him that she did not want to have with me. It's not like she wanted to have that relationship with me. She just hated the fact that I had that with him. Of all the things that had happened prior, that was the thing that really gutted me. Thankfully, I was able to think through it. You know, I guess that's the benefit of having been 15 at the time. You're able to process things better than I could have if I was 5 when she said it. And so I was able to process it enough to realize that this she is speaking out of her deficits, out of her personal issues, her personal problems. She was in no way speaking for my dad. Even if he didn't want any more children because he had had children from a previous marriage, even if he didn't want any more, my dad is not a faker. There is no way he could have faked the love, the time, the the memories that we had together. There's no way he could have done that. And so thankfully I knew enough to know that she was speaking out of whatever deficits she had as a woman. But it hurt. It was still a callous and cruel thing to say. And to this day, she has never circled back to apologize for that or any of the other things said or done in my childhood, and primarily her absence. The reason I was so close to my dad is because she was just not around to be a mother beyond the duty of, making sure there was dinner made, making sure um, I had clothes, making sure I had necessities, making sure I had, basic life skills, the duties of motherhood, but not the nurturing. And so to this day, I wrote that story in my book, Daddy's Girl Forever. And so she knows that I've already spoken about it. And even having read the book, still didn't come back and say anything about that. Actually, questioned whether she said it. But because of the work I had already done to forgive her, even the questioning of whether or not she actually said that to me didn't have the effect or didn't wound me the way it did when she actually said it at the age of when I was 15. And so I've had to accept, even now, she's in her 80s, I've had to accept that that's who she is. She is not someone who's able to look at herself objectively and, in love for herself, admit, you know what, I didn't do that well. You know what, I dropped the ball. I failed miserably in that area. She can't. She won't. I have to accept that because I can't need her to do that in order for me to be, in order for me to love myself, in order for me to accept myself, in order for me to approve of myself, in order for me to give myself the nurturing that she did not, in order for me to um, love my children in a way that she has never loved me. I can't need her to accept responsibility for what she did in order for me to be whole. I have to accept her limitations and forgive her for what she did wrong and for her limitations currently. I have to accept all of that. It's very freeing. I'll tell you another story to kind of drive home the point of how freeing it is when you accept people for where they are and that they may not change. Recently, I spoke with her. Like I said, she's in her 80s. That means my dad's in his 80s. That means they're getting up there. And we don't live in the same state. And so it's more important to me now than ever to speak with them regularly. My sister lives in the same state that they do, but because I don't and I don't have eyes on them, it's important for me to keep tabs. I speak to my dad way more than I speak to my mom because I am my dad's girl. And but still, my mom's getting up there, and I want to know how they're both doing because they're very independent and they look after each other and look after their friends. They seem to be the strongest ones of all of their friends. And so, they always say, check on your strong friends. Well, check on your strong parents. So I check on them. And recently I had spoken to my dad so often, and my mom was either out and about or she was there, but, we just didn't have time. They were going out and we didn't have time to speak. So we had just been texting, and I said, you know what? Let me call her. Let me call her and see how she's doing, hear her voice, hear if there's any other, there's the roll call of symptoms that you can have when you get to a certain age, and just wanted to see if there's any new ones on the list. And that's the energy that I'm calling her with. She wasn't there when I called until she returned my call later that day. And she returned my call as if she was doing me a favor. I was asking her about how she was doing, how she was feeling, what she had done today, and um, she just didn't want to talk about it. She didn't want to elaborate, and so she mentioned one thing. And when I said, "Oh, so what else did you do today? What? Why is this a special day? Like, why are you asking me? Why do you keep?" And in that moment, I had to remember who I was talking to. This is my mom. And we don't have that kind of relationship. We have the how are you doing? How are the kids? Give them my love. Okay, bye bye. That's what we have. And just because she's older and just because I have the heart to keep tabs on them, um, and make sure that they're doing well, regardless of who's the parent who has poured a lot into me versus who didn't. They're both my parents. They love each other and lean on each other. And so I want to make sure that they're okay. Regardless of that, regardless of her getting up in age, and wow, there's actually somebody who cares about me and wants to know how I'm doing. That doesn't resonate with her. I am still the daughter that she does not enjoy being the mother of. Even now that I'm a grown woman, have my own life, and it's not like she's raising me or has to be hands on in my life. She still cannot have any sort of relationship with me that feels actually relational. And her getting older doesn't change that. It does not change that. And I had to remember, oh, that's right. I know who my mother is, and I accept that. And so it was for me not to get offended at her dismissive tone or her seemingly bothered demeanor, that I actually cared to ask her questions about her day and how she's doing. I there was Why I get upset about that? I know who she is. And I accepted a long time ago the limits of our relationship. And because I've accepted it, I have learned to get filled up and to have that kind of mother daughter vibe with other women that God has brought in my life throughout the years. And so, because I've accepted who she is, because I have taken the initiative to develop para relationships that can give me similarly what I could have with my mom, even though it's not my mom, I'm in a position to be free. I'm in a position to say, you know what? I'll check in on her or I'll find out how she's doing through my dad. However I want to do it, however I feel led to do it because of the woman I've become and the woman I want to be. I'm free to do that without any expectation of her. My movements with her are without expectation. I've accepted who she is. And I approach her now. And let me be clear, you don't have to have a relationship with anyone you don't want to have a relationship with. And you can set boundaries, you can set parameters for that relationship should you want to engage with them. You can set them for your own well-being. So don't take what I'm saying about, oh, I'm talking to my mom. I don't know what your experiences have been with your mom. I don't know what therapy you've had to deal with them. I don't know any of that. But what I'm saying is, for whatever level of relationship you choose to have with her going forward, now that you have forgiven her, you got to do that one first. Just know that you want to be able to show up and be you without any expectation of her being any different than she has been. But if you have forgiven her, I tell you what it does put you in position to. It positions you to be open to the possibility that she does change, to the possibility that with time and reflection and a move of God, she may circle back and say, you know, I did some really terrible things to you when you were a child. I'm sorry. She may do that. Or she may do as my mom has been able to do. She also surprised me recently by being very candid about a situation she was going through. Um, part of what I missed out on with my mom growing up were all the intangibles, all the things where a mother spends a lot of time with her daughter and her daughter can pick up things just from observing her mom, or they actually have deep and rich conversations about life and what it's like to be a woman and what you can expect and different challenges in culture for women and challenges and then as you get older and you have the connection and you're communicating, she talks to you about what it's like being a wife and she talks to you about what it's like being a mother, and you can glean a lot so that you're not starting and doing everything from zero. You're not approaching womanhood and motherhood from zero. Well, I did. I approached it from zero because she had no time or interest in sharing anything with me of her, any of her wisdom, any of her insight, any of her affection. She didn't have it and didn't want to. And so it was really unexpected here recently when she shared her heart on a topic that me, as a wife, as a mother, really benefited from. It was completely unexpected. And if and it blessed me, but it only blessed me because I was in a position, because I had forgiven her, and because I have accepted that however she shows up that day is how she's showing up. And I've decided that it really is important to eat the meat and spit out the bones. As awful as your experience may have been with your mom, there's always potential for there to be meat on them bones. And if you're in a position, because your heart is healed, because you've done the work of forgiveness, you've done the work of therapy and acknowledging what things were dumped on you that were not yours to carry, they were her issues that she threw on you because she wouldn't deal with them. When you understand what's hers and what's yours, and you put everything in its place, and you sift through everything, and you do the work of healing, when moments like that pop up where out of the blue she's offering a seed of connection, a seed of insight, especially at that time, I actually, that was the perfect thing for me to hear. And and I let her know that. I let her know how much I appreciated her sharing from her heart with me in that way. It was very brief, it was in a text, but it was something she had never done before. And I was in a place to receive it as the gift that it was. It was a gift God was giving me. I was able to receive it for what it was, not make any more of it than what it was. So that in another instance, when she was dismissive of me, and speaking to me as if I was annoying her and I was a bother, that didn't bother me either. The only way I could have been in that place where I can flow in the understanding that she is who she is. I can't I can't control how she shows up. I can control my exposure to her, but I can't control how she shows up. But just in case there's a nugget of wisdom that she can give me that will bless me, I'm open to it. I'm open to it. But it but you have to be positioned for that. And the way that you're positioned for that is to forgive her. To forgive her. What if she's still uh, offending you? I'm going to say that you're probably still getting offended because you haven't accepted who she is. If you accepted who she is, then nothing she's doing now is really surprising. You've been seeing it since you were a little girl. If it's still offending you, it's because somewhere there's an expectation that you have that she should be different by now. Maybe she didn't know then, but she's older now and she should know better. Shoulda, woulda, coulda, don't. You have no control of what people know. I mean, it's things you do that you should still be doing. It's things I do that I should still be doing. So you would do well, and you would have so much more peace to accept that she is how she is, and based on that to decide what level of access she has to you based on who she is and continues to be, and whether or not you want to leave the door open so that if she pops up one day and surprises you with a twist, that you can accept it for what it is without thinking, oh, this is the beginning of a whole new thing. But you have to be free to be flexible like that. And so I hope this helps you. I hope it encourages you that on your journey to forgiving, and it's a journey, that on your journey to forgiving your mom for all the things, that you also package with that acceptance so that you're truly free to be the woman you want to be, the mother you want to be, and free to have enough grace to be able to receive the unexpected blessings your mother might throw your way. And that if she doesn't, you're good. You are good either way. I hope that encourages you. And until next time, please, please remember, when it comes to you being the mother of your children, you are the woman for the job. You are the woman for the job. Take care.